How's it going, fight fans? I'm back here with another video here set for you guys. Gonna be going in depth, breaking down every single banger of a fight on this card on the Dmitry Bivol versus Artur Beterbiev to the last crescendo. This card is absolutely stacked from top to bottom. 100% you can be able to say that all of these fights could have been a main event or a co-main event on any other type of card on Riyadh season this year. That's how absolutely tremendous this card is. And also as well at the price point of 25.99. When's the last time we had a 25.99 PPV card for boxing in general? Not even just what boxing cards usually was headline with the main headliner, maybe a decent co-main, and then the rest of the card with like 4 or 5 fights being absolutely atrocious. This card is absolutely worth it 100%. And a lot of things before I go into depth on this card is that you'll definitely be able to see a seemingly similar type of storyline being told throughout the entirety of the fight, or the fight card, I may say, where we have the wily veteran, elder statesman in their division trying to be able to show that they're still kicking and pushing, and while they still have a name in the division that they're in, they're going against a young and up and coming upstart type of fighter that is ready to get the rocket strapped to them so that way they can be able to go to the stratosphere with their career. But this is the kind of litmus test to be able to see if that type of upstart type of young fighter is ready for that, or still if that veteran wild experience fighter is still in it for the count. And we start off with the main card with the fight of Callum Smith versus Joshua Buatsi. We already know kind of the story of Callum Smith, him being the brother of Liam Smith and the Smith brothers, coming from Liverpool. Obviously, a heavily talented boxer in the 168. I think he's in 175, which is the light heavyweight division as of right now. Has a kind of a decorated career. Has gone against Canelo. Was the guy that kind of got punished against him with his arms just bulging because Canelo was destroying his arms with his punches, and he got pretty much demoralized and demolished by Artur Beterbiev. And we have the young upstart of Joshua Buatsi, who has been making a name for himself, especially on the England side of things, across the pond. He's been definitely doing his thing and has a name and has a type of, a rising community around him that's trying to be able to push him. But there's definitely a great litmus test for him to be able to see that he's that type of fighter that a lot of people believe that he is. Callum Smith is definitely a great quote unquote gatekeeper to be able to see if he's that type of fighter. But I think Buatsi has a lot of talent, definitely has a lot of skills, very athletic as well for the 175-pound division. I think he definitely gets it done against Callum Smith. I don't think Callum Smith, not that he doesn't have enough left in the tank or is not that type of fighter anymore to be able to push that type of pace or be that type of caliber fighter that he's up to snuff. But I think Joshua Buatsi is not going to showcase anything, but I think he's definitely going to showcase, if anything, that he's definitely in the upper echelon and ready to break out through the 175 light heavyweight division. And moving up the card, we have Gile Big Bang Zhang versus Ajit Kabayel. Kabayel is a undefeated heavyweight fighter as of right now, coming off two great victories against two great heavyweight boxing prospects, Makhmudov and Frank Sanchez, the Cuban boxer, who is very, very skilled and could move tremendously at his size at heavyweight. And Caballero got them out of there pretty well. Very, very impressive showcasing by him. I love his ability to be able to actually box and not just be a slugger, especially in the heavyweight division. Could be able to move, has decent footwork, and especially for a heavyweight, usually something you don't really see is obviously you see a lot of knockouts, but Kabayel is an absolutely tremendous power puncher to the body. He actually digs in a lot and he puts a lot of water in that basement to be able to provide him in the later rounds to be able to punish the fighters that he's going against later on. He definitely proved that against Frank Sanchez and definitely immobilized him in that fight. And you have Zhile Zhang, who's coming off a tremendous KO, even though over a washed Deontay Wilder. Still has proven that he has tremendous power in his hand. That's really what he's known for, especially at his age. Got Joe Joyce out of there twice and knocked him out tremendously in the two fights that they had with each other. And had really a lot of success against Joseph Parker, a guy who's really known as a tremendous boxer himself as well. Kind of on the lighter man, not a lot of power, but a lot of speed and a lot of great boxing ability and smarts. But definitely with Zhang knocking Joseph Parker down in that fight, you could definitely see that happening in this one. So I think for Kabayel to be able to get that type of victory, definitely wear down to the body. Really drain the gas tank of Zhile Zhang, which is really his weakness because he wears down, especially later in those type of fights. But he definitely has to be wary about what is coming towards his way. But I got a G Kabayel going over Zhile Zhang in a nail biter of a fight because Zhile Zhang, with the power that this dude possesses in his hands, he can hit you just one time and you're out of there, brother. Moving on up the card, we have Israel Madrimov versus Virgil Ortiz. I mean, I think this is going to be an absolute banger. Both of these guys, as of right now, kind of coming off controversial, quote unquote, decisions where you have Israel Madrimov losing his 154-pound super welterweight belt, light middleweight belt, against the newcomer in the 154-pound division, Terrence Crawford, in a very, very close fight. I did think that Madrimov did lose that fight to Terrence Crawford, but it was close. He did make a lot of attempts. He did really fluster and confuse Terrence Crawford. He took Terrence Crawford's power very, very well. Something that was actually proven. I mean, if you're looking at Errol Spence's face after the fight that he had with Terrence Crawford was pretty nasty. So it was really good to be able to see that Madrimov, especially somebody that's kind of more in their prime, in line, to be able to take those type of punishing shots from Terrence Crawford, who's kind of coming out of his prime, and now he's coming into a fight against Virgil Ortiz. Virgil Ortiz, who had a Fight of the Year candidate against Sergey Boychuk, a fighter that was actually supposed to be fighting Madrimov late last year, but their fight got canceled because of this, pretty much. And while that did happen, I mean, while you look back at the fight with Virgil Ortiz and Boychuk created a lot of problems, was a tough cookie, damn near won that fight in a lot of people's eyes, besides, the Mexican fans that were there for Virgil Ortiz. Boychuk potentially did win that fight, so very, very controversial decision going his way. So I expect Virgil to come out a lot stronger, a lot harder, a lot more focused to be able to get over a fighter like Madrimov. But I think Madrimov's footwork, his ability, his feints to be able to work in against Virgil Ortiz is going to create a lot of problems for Virgil Ortiz, something that he hasn't really been able to see in this level so far for him. So I have Madrimov going over Virgil Ortiz. And moving on up the card, we have Hamza Sheeraz versus Carlos Adames. Hamza Sheeraz, the new lightning rod, especially on the other side of the pool for England and British fans alike, has been the guy that they want to be able to strap the rocket to and go to the moon. He is absolutely tremendous. He is very, very talented. A lot of speed and a lot of power, especially how rangy with his size that he has, and especially with the background that he has as well. You can completely understand why Riyadh Season is trying to back him and really get a lot of quote-unquote money and oil on your boy. But Hamza Sheeraz, man, he definitely has a lot of talent. Going against somebody like Carlos Adames is definitely something that he needs on his record. Carlos Adames, a tough cookie, man. He really brings a lot to the table. He has a lot of solid wins, honestly, on his record. Sergey Derevyanchenko, Juan Montiel, Julian Williams, even though he was kind of out of his prime. Terrell Gasha, his real last victory that he had in his career. So I expect kind of a showcase for Hamza. He potentially could get a knockout later in the rounds in this fight. But definitely Carlos Adames is going to be in there for a fight and potentially maybe looking for a win. But again, with the hype and the potential that this guy Hamza Sheeraz is potentially having in his hands if he can be able to get somebody like a Carlos Adames out of there. Very, very impressive in my opinion. And moving on up the card, we have a battle of two tremendous prospects, that being Floyd Schofield versus Shakur Stevenson. Floyd doesn't really have anybody on his record to be able to have of note, but he is undefeated as of right now and is a highly touted prospect, has a lot of talent, has a lot of promise, as usually most all prospects do. In my opinion, there's nothing really special. In my opinion, out of Floyd Schofield, definitely has a decent name. In my opinion, could be a good name later down the road compared to a fighter like a Shakur Stevenson, who's already built that resume, has kind of the backing of a Terrence Bud Crawford and an Andre Ward, has a very, very responsible and defense first type of style, definitely coming in first, doesn't really look, and he picks his shots here and there with his offense, but he's not really looking to overwhelm and overload you with offense, even though last time he was out with Artem Hotunian. He definitely flowed out a lot more with his offense. Has some decent wins against Oscar Valdez, Jamel Herring, and Edwin De Los Santos, even though he was running around the ring the entire time. But I expect another pretty much shutout victory of Shakur Stevenson. Even though I do think Floyd will have his moments here and there, I think Shakur overall will have another tactical, technical, and defensively responsible outing where he kind of showcases similar things that we've already seen out of him before. And moving on to the co-main event, the hardest fight, in my opinion, to be able to predict, bar none, even with the main event in hand. Joseph Parker versus Daniel Dubois. What a hell of a co-main event this is. I believe this is for the IBF championship for Daniel Dubois. And, man, these guys are on a tear as of right now. Two of the hottest heavyweight contenders in the heavyweight division. Obviously, besides Alexander Usyk, who's the reigning and defending undisputed champion. You have a 5-fight win streak for Joseph Parker, man. In just tremendous performances. Really started to showcase that, especially in the Deontay Wilder fight that they booked him in. A lot of people thought that he was going to be out there pretty much just for fodder to get knocked out pretty easily in that fight, so that way they can be able to set up an Anthony Joshua fight between him and Deontay Wilder. But with that not being the case, and Joseph Parker really showing his class, showing his boxing ability, being able to get it rough and tough and get into the zones that he wants to be able to be in and making the fight that he wants to make it. It was absolutely tremendous. And even more on top of that, he had a tremendous performance against Zhilei Zhizheng, getting off of the canvas 2 times and then outlasting and outboxing Zhilei Zhizheng for the rest of that performance. And you have Daniel Dubois, who literally struck lightning in a bottle. And while he did strike lightning in a bottle, he's been looking absolutely on fire. His confidence is at an all-time high as of right now on that 3-fight winning streak, coming back and beating Big Baby Miller in that 10-round fight where he was down pretty much on the scorecards, come back and gets the finish in the 10th round. Goes in against the fighter that I completely forgot this guy's name, but he also fought Big Bang Zhang, and he outlasted him, and he stopped him in their fight, where he took a lot of hellacious punishment. And then, of course, you had the absolutely standout coming out party knockout performance against Anthony Joshua. This fight is absolutely the hardest one, again, like I said, to predict. Dubois is on an all-time high. Joseph Parker is literally in his prime, and he's striding along very, very well. Joseph Parker has gone against a lot of power punchers, so while he was being able to take that type of power against a Deontay Wilder, against a Zhilei Zhang, he did get knocked down. He did get put back to the canvas. There's been many times that Joseph Parker has been gone to the canvas, but there's many times that he's endured and been able to get past that type of adversity and come to rise to the occasion. But while that has happened, he hasn't fought anybody, especially young, and up and coming and in their prime, like a Daniel Dubois with his engine, with his aggressiveness, just coming out like a bull in a china shop, just like an ox, just ready to be able to get in your face and rip it off. That's literally how Daniel Dubois fights, like a modern version of a Mike Tyson, you may say. No disrespect to Mike. Um, but Daniel Dubois, man, he's just prime ready. We've kind of seen Joseph Parker bounce back. These are the type of fights that he gets himself into where he kind of knocks himself down off a pedestal after he's put on a tremendous track record for himself. But again, for it lasting long for however it may last, if it goes 12 rounds, 100% Joseph Parker wins. 100% Joseph Parker completely outboxes Daniel Dubois pretty easily in terms of ability, in terms of skill, in terms of having the experience and being the wily veteran type of boxing fighter. Joseph Parker is that guy. Very, very crafty. A crafty vet, if you may add. My Lucas Tracy fans. So it's hard. It's a nail biter. It's down to the wire. But I'm gonna go with Daniel Dubois over Joseph Parker. I think he gets a knockout. Joseph Parker's been very chinny. He has exposed his chin. He hasn't gone against an explosive young, in his prime fighter like a Daniel Dubois yet so far in his streak. So I think while that does happen, and I do think that Joseph Parker will still have a tremendous outing and impressive performance, I have Daniel Dubois going on top and getting the victory over Joseph Parker. Now moving on to the main event, we have the rematch between Artur Beterbiev and Dmitry Bivol. Man, we are getting it back into action real quick too. It has been real quick of a turnaround for these two guys who literally, it just feels like the other day, they just got their undisputed light heavyweight championship belt on the line. And man, I've been through my initial reaction, my live reaction after watching the fight, and after I got that done, I got a post reaction, simmer down without the emotions, really in detail, in depth breakdown of the fight between these two guys. And my conclusion is there's only two ways truly that this fight can be able to go down. And that's kind of similar of how you would see it in my prediction in the first fight. Um, Especially with the loss for Dmitry Bivol, I definitely see him being very hyped up, fired up in this fight. He is going to be reinvigorated to be able to get that loss off his, not off of his resume, but get redemption for it. Be able to know that I have solace that yes, I have got my victory back, or my so thought victory that a lot of other people thought that Dmitry Bivol pulled off against Artur Beterbiev. Even though myself, I believe that Artur Beterbiev, especially late in the later rounds of that fight, pulled it out and just edged it from Dmitry Bivol. My keys to victory for Dmitry Bivol is that he needs to be a lot more busier than what he was in the first fight, especially compared to the later rounds where it just seemed that Artur Beterbiev seemingly took over in those championship rounds. While it may be easier said than done, defensively, very responsible and very great approach by Dmitry Bivol with having his gloves up and really not taking the brunt of the punishment and the power shots that was coming his way by Artur Beterbiev, which is known by a lot of fighters where they get hit by those type of shots and they pretty much just go down. They eventually start to wither away, and it just is too much. For Bivol, man, with that being said and with his defense being incredible, it has to be even more impressive in this fight because I believe he has to open up a lot more. And with him being a lot more open, there's a lot more opportunities for Artur Beterbiev to be able to counter and to be able to expose Dmitry Bivol's weaknesses in his holes on defense, even though there's not really many. So my keys to victory for Dmitry Bivol is that he has to be able to establish the jab, establish the range, get his type of rhythm of fight of what he wants to be able to do and to dictate in this fight, and he has to throw more. even though defensively it might not be the right thing to do, he has to be able to throw more to match the output of Artur Beterbiev. And for Beterbiev, the keys to victory for him is essentially do what you did in the first fight, or even more. So just dominate, to walk him down, really not worry about the punishment or the shots that are coming his way. Bivol's not really known to carry a lot of power in his hands. So if you're not really threatened, and obviously you already have 12 rounds in with this guy already, you're kind of not worried about what's coming your way. You kind of already know what you're expecting to get into. You're coming in and expecting a tremendous boxer with a lot of talent, a lot of skill, and obviously one of the top tier boxers in the game as of right now, maybe pound for pound, like Dmitry Bivol, and you outlasted him. If anything, you outskilled him in a lot of moments, something that a lot of people didn't even think or see, because a lot of people believed if Beterbiev was going to win, it was going to be by knockout. Never in any world that they believed that he was actually going to win a decision, because we never even seen him go to a decision. So with that being all said, and with my belief that yes, Bivol will still have a really, really, really awesome performance, in my opinion. I think he's going to damn near try to pull out all the stops, be a lot more offensively oriented. Think he's going to be open a lot more, and I think while him being open, I think Beterbiev will eventually catch up to him. The speed advantage, the youth advantage is definitely on Bivol's track, but the skill, still the amateur pedigree that Artur Beterbiev still carries with him. I just think that eventually, yes, while Dmitry Bivol will be, again, offensively more oriented, he's eventually just going to get caught up with something by Beterbiev. And usually when Beterbiev catches you with something, you go down, or eventually you do go down. So my winner and my prediction for this fight is Artur Beterbiev by knockout, probably in the later rounds. I would say like 9 or 10. But I think Bivol is gonna do great. I think he's gonna be, again, fired up, ready to be able to go. But with that being said, I do think that Artur Beterbiev will definitely be ready and prepared for whatever Dmitry Bivol is going to be able to bring, because he kind of has that neutralizer, in my opinion, that unfortunately Dmitry Bivol does not. So those are my predictions for this card, fight fans. Obviously, like this video if you like this video. Comment your opinions on what you think is going to happen on this card. It's a tremendous card. Tremendous boxing card by Turki Aladik. A lot of credit to him. A lot of credit to Mr. Turki Aladik. I got to give him a lot of credit because this card is absolutely tremendous. I can't wait for it. February 22nd. And subscribe, boxing fans. Subscribe because I'm here. I'm here all year. I'm here next year. The year after. Consistently is key. Yeah. Thank you guys again for watching again. And peace.